There's a penny sitting in someone's junk drawer right now that is worth more than $7,000. It looks like every other penny minted in 1969. Same Lincoln profile, same memorial reverse, same copper color gone dull with age. The person who owns it has probably walked past that drawer 100 times. Nobody ever told them what to look for. My name is Albert, and I've spent 40 years working coin shows, estate sales, and flea markets across this country, building field notebooks on exactly this kind of gap, the knowledge that existed between collectors on the ground and never made it into the glossy catalogs. I've handled examples of the 1969 S doubled die in person, learned to read them before third-party grading became the default answer to every question, and I know this coin from the coin itself, not from a label. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what the doubling looks like in hand, how to separate it from the imitation that fools most beginners, where these coins realistically still turn up, and what to do the moment you think you found one. Picture a gas station somewhere in the Midwest, early 1970s. An attendant empties a register at the end of a shift, drops a handful of pennies into a coin bag without a second glance, and that bag goes to the bank the next morning. If a 1969 S double die was ever in that till, it was gone. Not stolen, not lost, just absorbed back into the river of circulation the way ordinary cents always are. That is the specific cruelty of this coin. It wasn't locked in a vault. It spent. It passed through ordinary hands, ordinary pockets, ordinary ashtrays, and most of the people who held it had no idea what the doubling on the obverse meant. The 1969 S double die is what collectors call a hub doubling error, produced at the San Francisco Mint, when a working die received a second impression from the master hub at a slight rotational offset. Every coin struck from that die carried the error forward. The doubling is not subtle. On a genuine example, the lettering of Liberty and the phrase, "In God we trust," show two distinct, separated images, not a smear, not a shadow, but a clear second set of characters offset from the first. The date shows the same separation. You can see it without a loop if you know what you're looking for, though magnification makes it unmistakable. Red Book price guides and PCGS population data suggest that certified examples in circulated grades have brought several $1,000s at auction, with finer specimens reaching well above that. Pull out any Lincoln cents you own from the late 1960s. Look at the date and the word Liberty under a 5-power or 10-power loop. That is where you start. Now, before you get too excited about every cent that looks a little off, there is one skill that separates the collectors who make real finds from the ones who spend years chasing ghosts. A coin show table in the late 1980s. A dealer has a box of unsorted Lincoln cents priced at $2 for the lot. A seasoned collector works through them methodically, loop in hand. A newer collector passes the box entirely, assuming nothing cheap could matter. The seasoned collector knows that a misidentified coin is exactly what ends up in a $2 box. The distinction you need to understand is the difference between true hub doubling and mechanical doubling, which also goes by the names machine doubling or shelf doubling. Hub doubling produces two full, crisp, separated images. Both the primary and the secondary image have definition and depth. The letters appear to have genuine thickness and a clear gap between them. Mechanical doubling is something else entirely. It happens when a die shifts or bounces slightly during the strike, smearing metal sideways. The result is a flat, shelf-like secondary image that lacks depth, lacks separation, and has no crispness of its own. It is a shadow, not a copy. The American Numismatic Association and CONECA, the combined organizations of numismatic error collectors of America, have published reference materials laying out this distinction in detail, and those resources are available to any collector willing to look. The practical cost of not knowing this difference is real, A collector who can't distinguish the two submits every hopeful cent to a grading service and pays the fee each time. A collector who can make the call in hand submits only what they know. Find a known mechanically doubled cent. They appear on common dates constantly, and study it against reference photographs of the 1969 S before you ever go hunting. Here is something worth saying plainly, and I want you to hear it for what it is. A coin show in any major city has dealers who know this distinction cold. The estate sale table, an hour outside that city, may have a seller who doesn't know the difference between a doubled die and a wheat cent. That asymmetry isn't a conspiracy. Nobody sat in a room and decided to keep this knowledge from you. It's just that there was never much financial incentive for the people who knew to explain it to the people who didn't. Not when the gap between knowing and not knowing produces a $40 coffee can that turns into something else entirely. Estate sales and inherited collections are where the 1969 S most realistically surfaces today. Coins put away in the late 60s and early 70s by non-collectors, people saving back interesting-looking cents, filling blue Whitman folders without any particular expertise, were stored without awareness of what they held. NGC and PCGS auction archives document certified examples of this coin appearing across a wide range of grades, which suggests that at least some of them came from exactly these kinds of non-collector sources, not from seasoned hobbyists who knew what they had. Bankrolls remain a possibility in smaller markets. Flea market bins and antique mall trays stay legitimate hunting grounds because the sellers frequently cannot identify what they're pricing. Find one estate sale, one flea market, or one antique mall within driving distance, and make a single visit this month with a loop in your pocket. You're not expecting to find anything. You are practicing the search. Now I want to stop and shift gears for a moment, because what comes next is where most collectors make the error that costs them real money even after they've done everything else right. A kitchen table, 1995. A collector has what he believes is a 1969 S doubled die. He takes it to a local dealer who holds it for 4 seconds under a desk lamp and says, "Machine doubling, worth a cent." The collector goes home deflated, puts the coin in a box, and doesn't look at it again for years. Another set of eyes on that coin, much later, reaches a different conclusion. Before you spend $1 on third-party grading, there's a sequence of field steps that will tell you whether you're holding something real. First, confirm the mint mark. It must be an S, San Francisco, sitting below the date on the obverse. A 1969D or plain Philadelphia cent does not have the same error and does not have the same value. The S mint mark on 1969 cents was hand-applied and is distinct from the machine-applied marks used in later years. Second, examine the doubling under magnification in strong, direct light. The genuine example shows the most dramatic separation on liberty, and in God we trust. Look for full definition in both images, not a shelf. Third, compare what you're seeing against the reference photographs in the Cherry Picker's Guide to Rare Die Varieties by Favez and Stanton, or against the free images available on PCGS CoinFacts before you pay a submission fee. Third-party grading is not cheap. Submission tiers can run from $20 to $50 or more per coin, depending on the service level and declared value. Comparing that against the cost of the Cherry Picker's Guide, which runs roughly $30 and covers thousands of varieties, tells you everything about where the smarter investment sits. Pull up PCGS CoinFacts right now and find the 1969 S doubled die entry. Study the photographs until you can describe the doubling from memory without looking. This is the part I want you to sit with, because everything before it has been preparation for this one moment. An auction in 2019, a raw, ungraded 1969 S doubled die pulled from an estate collection in the South crosses the block. Bidding opens in the hundreds. The hammer falls above $7,000. The coin had spent most of its life in a cardboard folder inside a shoebox. The family never knew. If you find yourself holding a coin you believe is genuine, the sequence from this point forward is not complicated, but it requires patience you may not feel in the moment. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. Do not dip it in anything that promises to restore the luster. Cleaning destroys numismatic value in ways that cannot be undone, and a grader will see it immediately. Place the coin in a soft plastic flip or a non-PVC coin holder. Photograph it before it leaves your hands, in good light, close enough to show the doubling clearly. Then research recent auction results for certified examples at comparable grades using PCGS Coin Facts and NGC's auction archives so you understand the realistic value range before anyone else gives you a number. Only then should you consider submitting to PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. Understand that the grade matters enormously. A genuine example in about uncirculated or mint state condition is worth multiples of the same coin and very fine. Rushing to sell raw or accepting the first offer in your excitement is how a significant find becomes someone else's significant profit. Write down the 4 steps: no cleaning, secure storage, photograph, research before submission, and keep them somewhere you will find them if the moment ever comes. 4 words: do not clean it. That alone is worth the price of this video. You now know what the 1969S double die actually looks like. Dramatic, separated, unmistakable. On liberty and in God, we trust. When you know what to compare it against, you know the difference between hub doubling and the mechanical doubling that fools most beginners and costs them submission fees on coins worth a cent. You know where these coins realistically surface: estate sales, inherited lots, antique mall bins, the places where the pricing is done by someone who never learned the difference. You know how to authenticate in hand before spending $1 on grading, and you know the exact sequence to follow if you ever make a genuine find. None of this knowledge was hidden. It lived in the Cherry Picker's Guide. It lived in A&A educational materials. It lived in the population reports that any collector can access for free. What faded was not the information. It was the habit of passing it from one person to the next, the way it used to travel across a coin show table or a flea market folding chair, collector to collector, without a submission fee attached. Knowing how to see this coin for yourself is not a collector trick. It is the baseline competence the hobby used to assume everyone working at the street level already had, and there was no particular profit in keeping that assumption alive. Go through every pre-1975 Lincoln cent you own: jars, folders, bank rolls, anything inherited and unsorted, with a loupe and good light before the end of the month. Not because you expect to find a 1969S, because the habit of looking carefully is the whole foundation of this, and it costs you nothing to build it. The next video covers another Lincoln cent error from the same era, one that is harder to find than the 1969S, turns up in a place most collectors never think to check, and has sold for more. The date and mint mark are staying in my notebook until we get there.